guess yesterday could have been worse. It started out really bad when the Dow opened down about 425 points. In the mid-afternoon, it started to get some steam, but it really fizzled out at the end of the day, and the Dow finished down about 250 points. The S&P officially closed down at a point that was the worst ever 6-month period since 1970. Now, I did some research on 1970, and this is what I found. You're going to find it actually eerily familiar. During a time of high unemployment, the easy money policies of the American Central Bank were meant to generate full employment by the early 1970s. Unfortunately, they also resulted in high inflation. Now let's break this out for a second before I go on. It starts, if you remember, the statement starts with in a time of high unemployment. So let's relate this to the COVID year of hell. The unemployment rate was 14.8% in April 2020. Now let's go to the next point of easy money policies. For those who don't fully understand easy money policies, here it is in a nutshell. Easy money is when the federal government the Federal Reserve allows cash to build up within the banking system. This lowers interest rates and makes it easier for banks and lenders to loan money. Sound familiar? All right, let's go on and talk about what else happened in 1970. Now, in 1970, the Fed actually took over the process and it raised interest rates so many times that the interest rates went as high as 20%. 20%! Now check this out. Nixon decided to go off the gold standard in 1971. All right, now I realize that this might be a little bit of a stretch, but think about this, right? Bitcoin was a standard for money. It does have a correlation here. It wasn't exactly a standard for money, but it does have a correlation here. The price of Bitcoin and holders of Bitcoin are down now about 65% since last year. In fact, all cryptocurrencies are down at least 60%, and some are going to a value of nothing. Look, not gold, but considered some time a year ago as better than gold, right? So some people thought that Bitcoin was better than gold, right? And that's what happens. Now, with this removal of the gold standard in the 1970s or 1971, the country turned to fiat currency, and it was a disaster at first. This caused the dollar to be devalued, and millions of foreigners, holding dollars, including oil barons in the Middle East with tens of millions of petrodollars, saw their values slashed. Now think about this. Has the value of the dollar deflated recently? Why, yes, it has. For those looking for the answer, right, it has. Nixon was adamant about one thing and said the following to the Fed chair at the time. We'll take inflation if necessary, but we can't take unemployment. Again, sound familiar? No one has said it, but think about how the administration is bragging about low unemployment numbers while inflation is running amok. Let's fast forward to a couple of years to 1973, and inflation more than doubled to 8.8%. 8.8% sound familiar again? Well, it's currently 8.6%. Later in the decade, it would go to 12%. By 1980, inflation was at 14%. Inflation rose to 14% with interest rates rising to 20% at the time. Holy crap! If you've ever heard the expression, those who don't learn from history are condemned to repeat it, the real expression should be, those who don't study history are condemned to repeat it. It's actually happening almost exactly the way it did in early 1970. So let me finish the story for those of you who don't know what happened next. The country fell into despair for a period of time from 1970 to about 1982. Reagan took over as president in 1981, but before this, the presidency of guess who? That's right, Jimmy Carter was the president from 77 to 81. Before him was Ford, of course, and before it, Nixon had 2 terms from the years 69 to 74. So the real question is, where are we? Are we in 1970, 1974, or 1977? I'm kind of afraid we might be really close to 1970 with a worse president than a president of 1977. We have no direction. We have rampant inflation, we have the Fed raising interest rates, but unemployment is still low. The fear that many have is they're going to see 2008 again. Well, I got to tell you something. The fear that got into me was, I'm afraid we might see the 70s again. Now, although I would like the shaggy hair, bell bottoms, and tie-dyes, I'm not so sure I want the monetary problems that will come with it. Oh, and by the way, corduroys are not for me. They chaff, you know what I mean? Did I scare you yet? No, not about the economy. If you're already scared about that, I'm talking about me in an afro, circular glasses, and a leisure suit. That's got to be pretty scary, right?